What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I did want to do a review here on the new Red Bull Speed Clash playlist. We all do know this was going to be the newest playlist we did end up getting in the game in the recent Season 6 update. That was legit going to be just days ago. We're also going to know this is going to be the newest summit since the lovely Chase Squad one, which insanely enough was going to be around 4+ months ago, and I might find it, might not. Here is going to be that one right here, guys, going to have a good amount of events. In fact, it's going to have 3, 6, 9 events there, which is honestly pretty insane. Like, this thing has 9 races in it, and again, it was going to be from around 4 months ago. We're also then going to have the lovely Made in Japan 2 as well. This one's going to have a good amount of events. This is actually going to have 7 races in it, launching around the same time as the Chase Squad one. This one was going to be free and so on and stuff like that. But the recent one, though, is going to be the Red Bull Speed Clash. This is the newest playlist. There is going to be a total of 7 races in this one. Now, I do understand players are probably going to play through this, most likely like myself, probably get through every single event in less than 1 hour. In fact, I'm going to admit right now, I did end up getting through every event. It was probably around 45, maybe 55 minutes or so. I was kind of taking my time going through the cutscenes, which, by the way, I kind of watched some. And I also pretty much skipped most of it because, yeah, I'm watching the cinematic and stuff. I would watch part of it and go, okay, that was cool. And then I would skip it and do the event, pretty much finish that, get to the next one. And I gotta admit, guys, like, don't get me wrong, the cinematics in these playlists are cool, but, like, I don't know, man. I just feel like a lot of times going into the cinematics, players might watch it and stuff probably once. Or who knows, you might end up even being like me, though, probably watching some of the main, like, I guess you could say, small little story type of video things, or again, cinematics, or the small things giving you like a minor story with like the podcast thing. You might even be on the side of that, probably watching a piece of it like I did, then go, okay, well, yeah, let's do the race now. Or you might not even want to care about any of it and skip every single piece of cinematics because all you want to do is the events. I gotta admit, like, I do understand they're trying to have like a story part of it with every playlist, but I gotta admit something. It is honestly taking way too much time up probably to make that stuff and do it. And I would rather just have like 14 events in this one or something like that instead of the crazy cinematics. But then again, though, I'm probably going to be on the weird side of probably saying I don't even need all this insane stuff. And I would rather just see a really rinky-dink playlist with some events and stuff, maybe a backstory. That's not going to be insane or most likely take up most of the time of developing it, which I do feel like is something that the Red Bull playlist had. Don't get me wrong, guys, it was going to be cool to watch it, but I also feel like players probably looked and they did not really care that much for it. Besides that, though, let's now talk about each event that you're probably going to encounter in this entire playlist if you haven't done it, or if you have done it, you can also get what I do think about it from every single one. So the first one you're probably going to encounter is most likely going to be the Puma race because you kind of have to do this one first. Then you're probably going to go down the line of events, but this is going to be a regular rally event. You're going to have to use the Puma the first time you do it, and it's going to be a mix of some dirt and also some cement, or I guess you could say track area. I gotta admit, it was going to be a decently cool event. This one was pretty fun, but again, though, it was going to be one small rally event, so it was going to be quick, and then you're probably going to be asking for more after this one. Luckily, after that, though, you can also then drive a rally vehicle again in the next event, though, which is going to be one of the new multi-category events. Now, if you are wondering, guys, this is going to be part of the entire thing they were showing in that article, to where you're basically going to have a choice of 2 different vehicles. There's going to be 2 different tracks and all that. For this one specifically, you're going to have motocross and rally, okay? The thing is, you can pick either one, and as far as I do know, all the times I have been testing the events out playing through them, it doesn't honestly matter what you pick. Now, I understand that is going to be like the this versus that type of thing. Pick the vehicle you're going to want, use whichever one you enjoy, I get it. Funny part is, though, I was going into this race thinking it was a race and you're going against the other class, but you're actually not. It's pretty much going to be a time trial with yourself where the other vehicles are in there. The one cool thing is, yeah, the tracks are going to be different here if you're driving a rallycross vehicle, which you guys will see footage of this in the background. It is going to be a tad different, like the motocross track is a little bit smaller in a way, which is probably going to make sense because why would you ride a motocross bike on a big track that's on the cement? doesn't really make sense. So yeah, that's probably going to be more of like a rally type of thing. But I really was going into this event thinking I'm going to race against the other category, but no, unfortunately, it's basically going to be a time trial of a vehicle that you do end up picking, which I gotta admit was a bit of a letdown on this one. We're then going to have the racing event here, which is going to be the Motor Rush. This is probably going to be incredibly obvious. You are going to have to do a time attack on the KTM RC16, so pretty much jumping into this bike, you do a small thing around the track with it, and that is pretty much going to be it. Nothing too insane here. I mean, we do understand how the time attacks are going to be and all that, so you pretty much jump in, you beat it, and then you basically move on to the next one. Moving over to the next event, though, you're then going to see the Asphalt Clasher, which is going to be another multi-category event. This one, though, you're going to have to use a racing bike or a racing car in it. But do not think about this one like you were probably thinking about the previous event there, where it's going to be the Dirt Clash. You pick like a rally and a dirt bike. You're going to have different tracks, right? Not on this one. You basically pick either one of the vehicles that you want. It does not matter. It's going to be the exact same class, or I guess you could say the exact same track with that class, or whatever is probably a better way to put it. You pick that and you basically have a duel against that said other class in the event. Honestly, it's not really what I thought. Like, I was kind of expecting two different races there, or similar to the other event where I have my own track and then like the race car does. But for this event, though, you are pretty much going to be doing the exact same track, though, with both of the vehicles, so there's not going to be a difference there. But it's still going to be labeled as a multi-category event. I gotta admit, it was a bit of a letdown again. I was kind of hoping for different tracks. Like, I understand they're both going to be racing vehicles, but like, we probably jump into these events probably getting excited, most likely doing it, and then you go, okay, is that it? Which, honestly, that's probably the entire question I had the entire time I did this playlist was, is that it? Anybody else feel that way? It's kind of where I was. The next event, though, we're going to have is with the lovely RB20, which is going to be a new Alpha GP vehicle. For this event, though, you're pretty much going to have to do a similar starting grid like to the one event we had in the summit. Almost similar to like a donk event. You hit like the X or whatever button it is, the gas button. I said X. I don't know where my brain is. But you hit that button, though. On each one, it's then going to give you a set amount of nitrous. The final one's going to give you like a boost in the set event. You pretty much go around the track, and then you have to use your nitrous in certain areas because it will like be automatic. So you hit it, it goes down. Again, I do understand players have done this in the summit. They've done the playlist, but it was going to be a different take on something they did in this event. But I gotta admit, like, the nitro thing was okay, but I also feel like it was something they were trying to do that was different. That it's okay, it's cool, don't get me wrong. Like, I thought it was kind of a nice change. You pretty much have to like use the nitrous in the right areas. You probably get a certain amount each lap. I did kind of like that aspect, but I do feel like players might do it a few times and then go, okay, can I have my regular nitro? Like, I feel like things like this in these events, why don't they give you the option to do either one of them? On the custom mode part of it, you also still do not have regular nitro. You always have the special nitro gauge that it does end up providing. I feel like small things like that, like give it the option to have both if you want to do it set different times and stuff. It really gives you more things to do in these set events because, again, there's only 7 of them. So locking certain things to the events is kind of odd to me. We're then going to have the High Clash event, which is also going to be the quote-unquote multi-category event where you're going to be in a plane or an Alpha GP vehicle. Now, the first thing I also thought about going into this event is I was thinking that maybe you'd be racing each other. It's going to be something like that because, well, the final event, which is going to be the Speed War, which is going to consist of Alpha GP, the racing bike, and also the Rallycross vehicle, is going to state something about who can cross the line first or who can get there first. So when I did end up seeing that on the Speed War event, I was like, okay, well, the High Clash is probably going to be similar. I get they race a plane or vice versa, but turns out, guys, it's not going to be exactly that. One thing I noticed about all the multi-category events is I do understand they were trying to do something different with this, probably making it a few different vehicles in it. You're going to have different tracks and stuff like that, probably trying to mix up the set event. But then again, though, the multi-category events are not going to be races in an aspect, but you're basically going to be doing a time trial with the said vehicle that you end up picking, and then the other cars in the exact same event are going to have different tracks where they're also going to have time trials that they're setting while racing with you, and it's like, okay, so I'm there with 2 other classes or 1 other class. we're pretty much all racing on two different races, so to speak, but also on the same track area. And it's basically going to be a fastest time on that said track that I'm on, and the other vehicles are doing the exact same thing. Kind of sounds hilarious, might be a tad confusing when I put it that way, but that's kind of what I noticed with the events. Now, I also do want to point out, though, I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible design or something like that, but I feel like a lot of players, including myself, probably looked at some of the events going, okay, well, I'm going to be able to pick this class, I race against those, let's see who can actually win, but it does turn out it's basically going to be a big time trial, where every single vehicle in that said category, or like whatever category that you're racing against, every single vehicle is going to have a time trial that they're racing. They're not really racing against you, but you're all racing against the clock. I guess that's probably going to be the best way to put it. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible design, but I was kind of going into this with a different mindset. And then once I got to my second multi-category event, I pretty much went, wait a second, so these are basically going to be insane time trials where you're pretty much going to be picking different vehicles. Funny part is the other multi-category that's going to be the racing bike or the racing car, again the Ferrari 488, which is going to be the vehicle in the said playlist that you get from completing it. That is going to be the exact same track, but two different vehicles you can pick. Also, on top of all of that, guys, which is going to be hilarious to me, is the fact that in the plane event, you actually get to use a plane that you can't even get yet. That's going to be coming out later. Apparently, that's going to be a Summit plane. It's going to be the 330, I believe it is, with a Red Bull livery. And on top of that, you can also drive the Ford Fiesta in the final event, which you also cannot get yet until the end of the month in that Summit. So yeah, you're pretty much using vehicles that you cannot unlock. I can understand they did end up having those in there, and maybe part of that might be like a sneak peek of look forward to this vehicle type of thing, but when you are going through the events in the playlist, you're probably going through them trying to enjoy it. You're probably like, oh, that's going to be a cool plane, or oh, look at this rally car. Turns out you're most likely not going to get that plane for probably a month and a half, and then you can actually go after the rallycross vehicle at the end of the month, which I'm sure everyone probably has noticed at this point. That is literally going to be a regular Ford Fiesta with the Red Bull livery on it. And the funny part is the livery editor thing on the regular Fiesta is also going to be locked, which I find hilarious, because you could probably make the exact same livery or very close to it to the one you are getting. Now, I'm not hating on that and stuff. I understand they were probably doing that on purpose, but the entire drip fed thing with the cars and all that is kind of frustrating because I gotta say it, guys, we did end up getting a new playlist. It's only going to be 7 events. That is legit going to hold us around for another 2 months until the next playlist comes out. That one is also going to be another 7 events. So 14 events in the entire 4-month period is honestly a tad ridiculous. When I did end up seeing this was only going to be 7 events, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to enjoy the playlist. I basically did the entire event thing in probably 45 minutes to an hour again, and then I was pretty much done. I went back in, I did all the challenges and stuff like that, which I will have a tag on the screen if you guys need to check that out. But I was going to go back in and do some of the custom mode, but to be honest, I just wasn't feeling it. And the reason for that, though, is I wasn't really having the urge to probably go back in, do all the events again with different classes, the exact same 7 events I just did, most likely around 40 or something times like that in different classes for a title. Like, it just doesn't interest me all that much going after some of the rewards and getting, like, you know, the prestige tickets. I have basically everything in the prestige store, so I don't need tickets, which means I don't really need to do the custom mode, so I pretty much do the events, and then boom, that is basically it. And I gotta say it again, the biggest thing I felt after I did the event thing, at least all 7 of them, was one simple question. That's it? That's pretty much how I really did feel after doing this, but do let me know what y'all think about the new playlist in the comments below. I gotta admit, guys, after a 4-month period of the Chase Squad, the Made in Japan Volume 2, I was kind of expecting this to be a tad bigger, at least maybe 10, 11 events or something, really mixing up the gameplay more, having more races in there for different classes, because you know what? We can all admit right now the entire game really is lacking in events, and if they are going to be releasing playlists like this with only 7 of them, I never truly see more events ever being released or ever getting to the track I would love to see it on. And as I have said in previous videos, I really do feel like the entire playlist design thing limits the game so dang much. I've said it in old videos, guys. I'm going to say it again because I think it's facts. Other people have said it. I really wish Ivory Tower would just release regular playlists that are kind of rinky-dinking away. Give us like 10 events, maybe a few side activities, and that is basically it. You can even leave out the custom mode and challenges as give us smaller playlists during the 4-month period that is going to get more events into the game that's unique to certain classes. It really is needed at this point.